We're close like that. Yeah.
We're close like that. Let's say you fired him into the sun because he wasn't ready, which factually would never happen because he's always ready.
True.
But if you fired him into the sun, what's to stop somebody else who misses very common kills to step into his shoes on his PC? I could possibly do it. Our aim is so similar.
You're really covering all the bases with that one.
For anybody following along, I have to say that is a joke. And that no, as far as I'm aware, there are no cannons that can reach the sun, let alone should they attempt to fire somebody in that direction. But be ready for your match, okay?
Yeah.
Operator band rolling in Brava and first. And then a Ying
to follow suit. I mean, it's always going to be a big tale of, do you want to fight the intel or do you want to fight the execute? Because that's most commonly the operators that we see banned out in Rainbow Six Siege and Pro Play. Either operators that give you information or makes that bomb set execute easier. Brava is one of those exact operators. Ying is one of those exact operators where they make one of those two easier. Of course, Ying being the execute and Brava being the intel. As a soloist, we saw that operator banned out once in the previous matchup, the OXG game, against Space Station Gaming, and it makes the defense a little bit more difficult because you can't find those drones in the prep phase, which means attackers can get set up drones for the rotations, for the flanks, and they can just kind of get quicker up to speed when the round begins because they've done some of that drone work during the drone phase itself. And then aside,
last operator ban took a while, actually. Easy did not want to rush that decision. Oh, look, Pambazoo's back. Just in time. Citizen, as far as I'm aware, is not back. But
no, I guess not, yeah.
Good news. You can always pick afterwards. It's more important that you are locked in on defense than on attack. 21 attacking operators have been banned. 21. There is quite a breadth between all of those that have been removed from play. However, there are 3 operators that have led the way when it comes to operator bans. Ying, the most banned operator in North America, Dokkaebi and Monty are not terribly far behind. Then it falls very far down to Brava, who has now been banned 7 times.
Oh.
Things are not the same when it comes to defense. In terms of defense, there have been 10 operators banned. So, much more clear cut. And the top 4 completely lead the way. Zombie, the most banned defender. Valkyrie, then Fenrir. Hyde with Solus. So, we see a Solus ban, we see a Azami ban, we see a Ying ban, Brava. 7 bans now, top 4. None of these seem like particularly targeted bans towards certain players that might be outside the norm. And none of these are all that weird when you look at Border as well.
Well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'm not gonna discuss anything there, and I think both teams are also happy with that going away from it because it kind of equalizes that. Okay, defense got weakened and attack got weakened with those key operators. I don't think either side is not more heavily favored than the other, but of course, not having a Sami available on defense is always gonna. Well, it can be difficult to work with. Some teams, of course, struggle more than others, but we know that DarkZero and Troy Canadian especially, they love intel. And right now, I mean, yeah, Solus is banned away, but Valkyrie's up, the Pulse is up, of course, and we do see the Canadian on that Valkyrie operator with a C4 on target, roaming around the map in this very first round on his ventilation defense. And that has been that big change for DarkZero the last year and a half, where Troy kind of joined as support player, then a flex player, and now on defense is often in the battle early, playing those intel operators. And if Troy dies, he can then lead his team from the grave with that full overview, watching players, watching camps, etc., and can kind of rally the troops and see where people should be going and what they should be doing.
First point for Soniqs is to clear out the CCTV portion of the map, which they survey that there's been some soft destruction done. Citizen was plotting the next steps. Gunner just goes on in, finds a goo mine for his trouble. Premises has been completely vacated. There's Valk cams strewn about. Interesting choice to go down to Ventilation Workshop for first bomb site, since that is not a common start for most teams here on this map. Usually all reliables at Armory bomb site, or you might see the odd bathroom tellers. Either way, Soniqs will have to clear out the top floor, as is pretty commonplace, especially with the fact that the Armory portion of the map, usually the first bomb site, is directly over this Vents Workshop bomb site. There's information for DarkZero, but NJR is not able to capitalize off of that. First kill going in favor of SQ. Down goes the alibi. Soniqs are preparing for an advance over on that armory wall and towards small office. Gunner is off to the races. Try to pick to the left, but Citizen gets the pick on to Gavin. Rice flying out, and he's slaughtered as well. Suddenly, Soniqs, with 40 seconds to go, are doing quite well. It's all up to Canadian to clutch as he finds a single kill, but there's 4 more to go. 30 seconds, plenty of time for Soniqs to pull this one off.
All time in the world, and I see here the discipline. Canadian's gonna go for a flank, but the thing is, the second he gets to his first gunfight, 3 more enemies await him, and it's gonna be Citizen on the main door, locking things down. The Soniqs with a very beautiful early execute in that roam clear. Yeah, they took a bit of time for the setup, but the moment they destroyed the first, wall and door to armory, it was just a rush on in, picking up kill after kill. And it's always nice to see the attack inside play with confidence and kind of set in the pace in the first map in a best of 3 series, because it can go the distance, right? It could be a quick 2-0, it could be like a 7-1, 7-1, or it can go OT after OT into the third map. So being the trendsetter to start things off is always going to put you in a nice, comfortable position, but I also have to kind of question the ventilation bomb site start for DarkZero. You pointed out, Parker, it's not very common or typical, and it doesn't necessarily have the most success because the second the attackers clear that top floor hold of armory, CCTV, and archives, well, you lose the bomb site with that as well, because you break the soft floor destruction instead of armory, and then you get bomb site control, then you plant, etc. The other outcome is that you simply try and fight for top floor control with your lives, but that means that the roam clear will define the direct outcome of the round, like we just witnessed. If you kill 4 people on the roam above, on the attacking side, and it's just Troy on the bomb side alive, well, you've basically guaranteed lost the round unless Troy can pull out a clutch out of his hat in a 1 versus 4 with half health. That's very unlikely. So I like the bomb site change here from DarkZero, going straight from that weaker ventilation bomb site to the more stable and common bathroom tellers to kind of change things up.
I'm a fan of that. And I mean, if you're a team like DZ, who the desks seem to argue that they got beat in the map ban phase. Desk, if I heard that wrong, please let me know, but it seemed to speak towards the strength of SQ's map pool over DarkZero's. If you are considered a team that does not have the strongest map pool, this is Soniqs' map, which is worth noting. Obviously, we can consider which side they started on as we go deeper into this matchup. But you're going to want to try to keep SQ on their toes, frankly. And I mean, an unorthodox bomb site rotation, which doesn't really exist on a lot of these maps, especially with operator repick, is an opportunity, for you to get Soniqs in a position of discomfort. It didn't work on the first round, but now you go to a more familiar bomb site for both teams, and you see what SQ can bring to the table.
You see, they have their style where they can play fast when they need to, but they prefer playing it relatively slow. I will say over the course of the last 6 months, they have sped things up, but they don't seem to take fights that are quote-unquote unnecessary. They're a very disciplined team, and it shows very much in these first 2 rounds. There's no fighting in CCTV. There's no fighting on spawn peak side of things either. They just pick their areas. Right now they care about office and fountain, and then 1 person armory and the bomb site, and that's it. They don't care or fight or bother with the rest besides 1 member in each staircase. So it's up to Soniqs to kind of find the gap and find those entry paths, but every single time in the first 2 rounds, it's Soniqs to get that opening kill, this time onto Gavin, who the desk said he tends to die the quickest in these rounds, but then the backbone of DarkZero, they usually stay alive for a lot longer.
Well, it's not just Gavin who's dead. Canadian, who survived to the bitter end of the previous round, will have no impact in terms of gun skill. There goes NJR to Grixer. Soniqs looking so formidable through these first 2 rounds. DZ mustering just a single pick in the previous round. Now they will do the same here. As Pambazoo gets on the board, only 2 players from DZ with kills to their name, and one of them is dead. Pambazoo will look for more as Rice sits on the bomb site. Pambazoo is off site. So Soniqs with 4 players. Diffuser in the hands of Geo can overrun Rice and set Pambazoo up in a very difficult position. But Pambazoo will try to keep the numbers close as he engages. Down he goes to Rexon, and now Rice will need to save the world. 1 kill on the gunner, but Rexon has his teammates back. When you give up the early advantage, as DZ did, and you trail in numbers, a kill or 2 is good, but You're always going to be fighting a losing battle when it comes to Soniqs. They're up 2-0 now.
Looking very composed. Soniqs, they've had I want to say a mixed stage so far. I mean, a lot of people have high expectations, and to my point earlier, out of 10 maps, 7 of them have gone into overtime, which means, if you lose an OT, just 1 or 2 rounds, they sway the outcome in terms of how many points you get, and of course, winning regulation gives you 3 points, winning an OT gives you 2, and losing OT gives you 1. If just a couple of rounds and a couple of games are done differently for Soniqs, they could be in a much better and very different position in terms of standings. So, looking at it, I think some people judge Soniqs a little bit too harshly and say, oh, they didn't even get top 4, they didn't do so good. When it's like they were like 3 rounds, 4 rounds off getting a whole different amount of points in the surplus. So, yeah, don't look the best on the board, but they're here still. Had a phenomenal first 2 rounds, and yeah, it's border attack, and I want to say that breaking down the side preference and expectations this stage has been very difficult. We tend to say that border is an attacker-sided map, and all of a sudden it's been a defender-sided stage for all the maps combined in total. And then it's Soniqs' map choice of border, but DC they choose to go on defense first. And if I were to put on my old school hat, I would say, choosing defense first in a best of 3 is nice because you get to start on a side that doesn't have to do a lot of things, right? Just set up your reinforcements, set up your utility, and, play in those positions. Make the enemy work that hard job first on attack. But if the map is attacker-sided, sure, you want to start from the preferable side to build up around score. It's confusing, it's hard to make sense of sometimes. What I do know is Soniqs are looking a lot more proactive right now than they did early in this stage.
Oh, I mean, the first 2 rounds didn't work out for you on DarkZero's side, so what do? You blow up the composition and bring that Rook-Doc combo that we don't see all that frequently. In fact, Rook's pick rate is very firmly in the basement at this point. I mean, I guess you do have the benefit of Withstand being reused so that you can pick yourself back up. I like the animation of the pulling bullets, but it just suggests survivability for DZ, which has been the big issue through these first 2 rounds. You've been trampled by Soniqs. Good news is that there's 1 minute off the board, and SQ have not been able to find you just yet. They're down below. You're above. Pambazoo seems to be the intended target as Gunner bucks through the floor, but there's 2 separate DZ silhouettes up there, and both of them are going to be looking to trade back if the Buck is able to strike first.
We don't see Buck very commonly these days, but I like what Gunner is doing. Maybe a bit of a lack of follow-up with Landscan coming out. Soniqs could run in if they want to, but right now it's just Gunner breaking that floor apart one by one, 1 layer at a time, and doing a fair bit of damage. Forcing out 1 stim from Pambazoo already, but time is becoming an issue for Soniqs. 2 minutes burning the clock, and they haven't progressed in the map itself as of yet.
No, Rexon 4-0 is closing in on what was a heavily contested part of the map, and now it looks like it's just Pambazoo holding it. He can rotate out towards 90 when he wants. If he plays too close to that banana position, down will Rexon go, but DZ gets on the board first. Pambazoo getting the pick, immediately retreating. Citizen no more, 45 seconds left, and this armory bomb site could be held in DZ's favor. Not before Rice dies to Gunner, so the patience of the Buck down below being rewarded. Back to a 4v4. The timer in a bit of a precarious position, and if SQ are not able to pick up the pace here, they will be battling behind in terms of time. Benefits DZ, who at this point just need to sit back and wait. Gio's got the diffuser, but it'll be an armory take. He'll have to reposition and run around basically the entire map as Gunner takes an awful lot of damage. Gavin now turning towards armory, but pre-fired away. Rexon continuing his streak. 5 kills and not a single death. Diffuser going down. Soniqs in the post plant in just a matter of moments. Pambazoo dies, Rexon follows. Numbers favoring SQ, but NJR taking 1 down. It's him and Grixer in a standoff for the ages. Grixer waiting, he's got this angle, but he will have to reposition to see NJR.
Attackers need to protect.
Will he be able to get a good look onto the diffuser? There's NJR to go. Grixer running up. A flashbang goes out. NJR peeling off. Grixer circling around, but NJR wins it. What an unbelievable shot from half wall, and he'll grab the diffuser too to give DZ their first round.
He was even partially blinded as well with that flick, so it must have been a phenomenal shot from NGR, and Stone Cold on the player cam, not really phased by what just happened in the round, and it looked like it was a favorable DC round. Time was low for Soniqs. Gavin inside of Armory held it down very well. All of a sudden, Soniqs is storming through that door in the breach, and they get the opening kills. And then we see they're planting with 0 seconds left. C4 comes from Troy downstairs, and he has a good read on it, but Soniqs planted on the other side of the cabinet, which saved him from the C4 explosion itself. Bomb goes down. You're thinking, Soniqs, they got this one tucked away. But a couple of well-timed kills here from NGR and the rest of DarkZero. Geo jumping out the window right here, just jumping out, looking the wrong way, can't shoot back, and the post plant not really favoring the retake there for Soniqs, or rather the post plant position. Gotta run all the way in and fight those angles, and despite having a flashbang, DarkZero couldn't clutch the round for his team. It's very close in these rounds, and that has been the best round for DarkZero so far, and it still came down to a 1v1. That's the Armory bomb site done and dusted. First defense success. Going back downstairs to ventilation, we saw what happened last time.
10 seconds left.
It's a relatively quick round for Soniqs, just storming that top floor. So it makes sense
5
for DC
seconds
to
left.
bring more utility. The mirror windows with the bandit batteries to reinforce certain
Attackers
positions
are moving to
upstairs.
defuse the bomb.
Canadian with a, some flavor of his own. The good old pulse. He goes way back to year one with this operator, where he has one of the highest played hours on pulse in personal play. It's Valkyrie last round, that didn't find that much success. And this time they'll try with a different approach. An arguably worse gun, but like as I said, one that he knows very well.
Canadian and Pulse is like Master Chief and Sledge, they just go together so well. I've always thought about the two together, ever since I saw Master Chief back in it was 2000 2002, 2003, the first thing I thought is, man, that'd make a great Sledge skin. Now don't look into that too much because Sledge didn't exist prior to 2017 or 2016 or whatever, so don't think too hard.
Yeah, Seeds might have come out 2015 December 1st, but we won't think about that. It's fine.
Wow, you
He'll
had that
fit a
one
big
ready.
cap operator.
You just
oh
knew.
yeah, I know that one. Yeah, it's a big
do you have
part
it
of my
tattooed
life.
on you or something like that?
Not the date, but the logo. Close enough.
Right.
You should try it. It's changed your life too.
No, I mean it did, but I'm really good. Thank you though.
It's fair. Shall be another. It's a bit of a setup here from Soniqs again. They just want to make sure that they get all their players in a comfortable position at 5 versus 5. Soniqs have struggled with lots of early members, or rather losses early in the rounds from their members of the team. And they've just been paying their respects right now. Again, not getting into unnecessary gunfights and taking risks. No one making isolated plays. All what they're doing is making good sense, and Geo almost loses his life. But it's Canadian who goes first instead. Rixon's in the side.
Yeah, he is. He dies for it though, but DZ ultimately coming out in terms of kills in a very favorable position. Geo's got the diffuser, but will need better coverage if he wants to get that planted at some point. Citizen clearing from above. This is a solo effort. The two players of DZ are up top awaiting him. As Geo inching ever closer to this vents and workshop bomb site. DarkZero a flash out to bathroom, maybe to gain some attention. There will be goo mines littered throughout. SQ might be unfortunate enough to find them. Here's bathroom control going for SQ. If they can get this pick, they're good for it. Citizen as well, flushing out one of the players of DarkZero on that top floor. It's Gavin and Pambazoo combining for 4 kills. An impressive tally given the state of affairs that DZ were in. Pambazoo drops, party time, and now Gavin and Grixer will square off. Only 10 seconds left. Grixer in the bomb site, planting an A. Now it's Gavin, push up through the soft wall, he's got the read. And DZ lock out the round. I don't even think Grixer knew he was coming for him. 2-2 the scoreline.
Oh boy, I gotta say, Rex made a big ballsy play there. He got that kill on the Canadian and immediately sprinted in towards the workshop bomb site. And in most cases, that's a great play to make because there's only gonna be 1 or 2 members on the site. The rest are gonna be roaming above. But the issue with that ventilation bomb site is majority of the defending players will be above the bomb site with vertical holes in destruction in the floor to see the site itself. Plus, she had that bulletproof camera and default cam still up inside of blue and bomb site itself. So Rexon runs it in, immediately dies, but it's not all for nothing. Soniqs, they make a great pick inside the bathroom, they 3 versus 1 that player, and they get into that numbers advantage, but they retake, they drop over into open air from Pambasu, getting that sprint to a double kill, and yep, Panda party time. One of the highest rated players across all the categories right now in terms of killing and surviving, cost, efficiency, etc. in the NAL right now. I think the KD was 1.51 if I'm not mistaken, which is an absurd score to put up right now, basically throughout the entire season. It also means that despite, you know, whatever foe you put up in Pambasu's way, a fast team, a slow team, he deals with them all equally well. Consistency is the name of the game right now for Panda. And might not have been the first 4 rounds. He's doing mighty fine considering that DC started down 0-2. He's 5-4 currently, top gunner for DarkZero.
Yeah, both of these teams have multiple offensive threats, right? Grixer has a bad game, but you've got Citizen and Rexon who can hold it together. You know, Rexon has a bad game. Gunner's suddenly playing well, and so is Citizen. Grixer's there in the background, you know. Obviously, your supports, you're not expecting them to really impact the scoreboard. Geo will have the occasional pop-off game, but his numbers will typically be quite low in terms of kills. We can say the same of Canadian, and Rice has also had some games where he struggled in terms of the kill department. For DarkZero's side of things, Gavin has had probably the most pronounced struggles of anybody on the team to acclimate to this DZ style of play. And I mean, hey, if you look at Gavin, you're not entirely reliant on him when you've got NJR and Pambazu, who almost always do well. If Pambazu's having a bad game, then yeah, things get a little bit troubling for DarkZero. But again, they've built this roster around depth. It's not as clear cut, and you'll usually have 1 or 2 players in that standout role for both of these teams.
Absolutely, and as I said, like you said, Geo's numbers might not be impressive, but yeah, KD wise maybe not. But for supportive play, he's got 7 entries so far in this season, which means Geo can get in quick and dirty when he has to. Quick is not the pace right now for Soniqs. There's keep up this like 1 minute 30 seconds left. That's when they start hitting that first entry point, armory, archives, etc. It's been the pace so far, and it will continue to do so in this round as well. That first bit of action happening inside of Armory. Gavin, of course, true to his name, get into the action first. Has to make a choice now. Fall back, stick around, or simply try and get a crossfire set up for his teammates.
Yeah, and he's fallen back off of that mirror in small office. Just a little bit over a minute left. There goes Panda. The biggest threat. DarkZero in terms of offense is no longer available. The rest of the team are going to have to do this on their own. And when the team effort happens, yield to the captain to lead the way. Canadian on the board first for DZ. Gavin also on the board as he drops, but just not quick enough to escape Citizen. Rice a kill as well, and suddenly a second. Grixer all upstairs, all alone. Hunting down these last 3 players from DZ. That'll be 3 in a row for DarkZero if they prevail here, and with damage being done to Grixer, things for Soniqs looking a little bit grim. Desperation drop for Grixer will come in as he throws out his flashbangs, surviving for the time being. But for how long? Is he living on borrowed time? Grixer's pulled off some clutches before, but a 1v3 when you're going up against some that anti-plant denial with a C4 in play, spotted on a default cam, mirror windows there, Valkyrie cameras up on the board too.
10 seconds left.
All of this working against Grixer's favor. Has the diffuser, but that'll be an afterthought. As it's NJR to get a kill. The final 4 players all pick up a single kill. It's not a team ace because Pambazu was held off the board, but after he died in the 4v5, every single member of DarkZero collects at least 1 kill. DZ's 3rd round in a row. It's pretty nice. They've completed the cycle and they gain control of this first half.
Well, that certainly is very nice, and I think it's going to come down to a game of adaptation right now between these 2 teams. Sure, you got Border right now, which you can approach in different ways in both the attack and the defense, right? The fast and the slow, etc. But this being a best of 3, it will come down to who can really adapt the most throughout the series, because if you recognize a weakness in your opponent's setup and you start abusing that, they then have to change so that the weakness lies elsewhere or just entirely remove that weakness. DC struggled the first 2 rounds, and it seemed like SQ had their number and had them figured out entirely. But then that Armory defense happened, and it was Pambas who just put up that much pressure out of CCTV. And ever since, DarkZero, they have been putting up a little bit more of a fight in that extended part of the map. Like we just saw at Bathroom Teller's defense, where a lot of fighting happens out of Armory, for example, where the first time they defended the bomb site, though the fighting happened in Office, Fountain, and Archives. So all of a sudden, DarkZero, they add one more room to their map of what they care about, and they start finding some success, and they slow down Soniqs even further. They get more area to work with, and that's actually forced another adaptation, this time from Soniqs. Geo said enough is enough. I'm 0-4, I played Ace, I planned it, I did all these boring things, I want some action. He says, give me the blitz. This normally speaks to, you know, a roam clear, finding isolated members. It's great for clearing out CCTV because you can't get shot at that easily. Geo is still droning, however. He's gonna get his teammates in downstairs first to assist Gunner, do that vertical play, and then I imagine later on he's gonna run upstairs and help you clear CCTV with the player, or they can just force Pam out this time, purely with vertical gunplay, and this time he doesn't play Duck, so there's no healing for Pambasu. He's gonna play the rest of this round very low in HP.
Haven't really seen a lot of Finka on attack, so no way for the attackers to get back on up. Doc was only shown, I think, a single time up to this point. Pambazoo making his presence known, though. He was on that Doc roll, reunited with Fenrir, good for a single pick. There wasn't much left of Gunner. But you saw how pivotal that buck was on the last Armory execute for Soniqs. It put DZ's defenders in uncomfortable positions quite often. Ultimately, the round went in DZ's favor, but the buck was not a big issue. Now, the execute about to begin. We saw Rexon with the lifeline launcher out, ready for Geo to burst in, but instead now the blitz will come over to the mirror window, take it away from Gavin. That's visibility gone for DZ. Half the round off the board, and Soniqs appear to be setting up for an Armory take. Well, maybe not. Just Geo. The rest of this Soniqs team spread out all over the map, but 2 of them looking towards CCTV.
Attackers have dropped the bomb.
I did a bait and switch here from Geo on the Armory side because he had diffuser, dropped it to his teammate. Could of course plan with the blitz, push with the blitz, but it does seem like Armory is still the name of the game here for Soniqs because 3 members are rotating. We believe it's just Grixer on the Archives balcony. Yeah, there we see him. So once they go, they gotta fully commit here. It's Geo on the blitz to lead the charge.
There's Gavin watching him coming in. Nitro Cell goes out. Geo survives.
What?
Rice down for the count. Soniqs with 40 seconds to go, holding that advantage. Geo needs to ensure that his HP's not being chipped away at. Canadian will play the long game down below. If Geo does make it in, there's a Nitro Cell with his name on it in the hands of the team captain. Geo's gonna tempt fate, pulling out the sidearm, finding his first pick in the final round of this first half. And there's Canadian's opening. Geo backs away from it after getting the sound call. Things going from bad to worse for DZ now as they're boxed out of this Armory bomb site. Canadian re-aggressing up the main stairs, finding one pick, dancing around metal. NJR out-duels Geo, that's a puzzler. Now it's Canadian to try to get a kill in the post plant. Soniqs scrambling out of the bomb site. Canadian isolated as NJR is removed from action. And it's a 1v2 where Soniqs look cool as a cucumber. First half, 3-3.
What a phenomenal round from both teams. I mean, the level of siege that we just witnessed, Geo played the blitz to basically perfection because you can play the blitz like we see in typical rank play where you go for a rush and a push and you isolate members. Geo played it kind of like a quicker Monty where he was just simply looking for intel and trying to enable the setup, the plant, the crosses, etc. Used his smokes both times beautifully to cover the mirror into the lines of sight. We saw a vertical play from DarkZero, fishing with those 2 C4s and they attempted retake. We saw NJR getting blinded and somehow knifing Blitz in the 1-1 without being able to see a damn thing. And he wasn't playing Warden in that round. It was beautiful to witness all the way through. But Soniqs, they seem to have a very set goal in these rounds and very clear plan as well. And nothing could really stop them there. The fact that Gunner died early and bucked but traded, Pambasu 1-for-1 was worth it for the attacking side because they still had the Blitz, they still had the Lion, they could still get to that plant spot inside of Armory. So trading your best quote-unquote player in Pambasu for a single kill, not the greatest spot to be in. Soniqs played that round extremely well. DarkZero now on their attack inside with the side swap coming through. 3-3 is the scoreline, and it does seem to be one of those very even games.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Beautiful double frost, man, just in case there's an eager vault in. Now, here's a bit of a troubling statistic. Even though the score line is equal 3-3, DZ only got on the board first once. Every other round was either a completely clear-cut first kill for Soniqs, or the action happened late enough in the round that it might as well be a trade. Those numbers aren't particularly good for DarkZero. You saw some of their players bail them out of tough spots, the name that always pops to mind when we talk about these things. Pambazoo, NJR's had some good moments in other games, but so far, team has been okay through the mid-round. The early round, though, dominated by Soniqs. Now, might be more challenging for them to do that as they move to defense. It'll be incumbent upon DarkZero to isolate one of these early roamers and get a pick. Citizen is usually the player that is least supported on the roam, but that's because he doesn't need it. And oftentimes, if you can notice that he's lurking somewhere else, and maybe Grixer's lurking too, because Soniqs do play rounds like that, you can get an early pick on the site and then get a very quick secondary follow-up pick. I don't know if DZ's going to be looking to do that, but right now it seems like a relatively standard approach to take control of the fountain and office portion of this map and snowball from there towards the eventual Teller's bathroom bomb site.
They do so very, very nicely, right? Canadian on Dokkaebi has those secondary EMPs, so they toss them onto that fountain wall, break open it. There's no impact deny from the side of Soniqs, so all of a sudden, if you want to stick around top floor as a defender, you gotta fight with your life because, you know, DC, they're storming down that portion of the map.
They get that first pick, that's huge. No follow-up though, and Soniqs actually win the next two duels, so the advantage that DarkZero had is gone. They might strike first, but it's all for naught, and Gunner is putting on an absolute clinic upstairs, befuddling Canadian. Will now surrender that diffuser. NJR will be tasked with picking it back up. Pambazoo and NJR both close enough to pin down Gunner, who's just, at this point, burrowed
Bomb located by attackers.
into Passport. He'll get droned out, so they know he's there. Getting an opening for himself. Pambazoo hoping to get some bullet pen action, but doesn't land a single shot.
Nice try and a good read. Thing is, Rexon's prone and ready. Planting's gonna be difficult here. Only one person can cover, so perhaps going for kills would be the option here. Do see NGR rotate for diffuser, but in a 2 versus 3, if you start planting, you only got one man upstanding. That's a tough position to be in.
Well, Pambazoo flirting with some action now. Nitro Cell going off. It's a tough duel. He wins it. And now he's got control of that bomb site. NJR boxing him out as well. Now it's Geo and NJR in a 1v1, and Geo is wide awake. SMG11 goes 2 in a row for Soniqs. They win the round and take the lead.
That's certainly not Sleepy Geo, that's for sure. I mean, you're always thinking to yourself, right? He's got the shotgun SMG11 combo, he can stick the corner, prone there, etc. And NGR, he's so great in those 1v1s usually. And there are these cases where when you're in a 1v1 or a 2v1, etc., sometimes you gotta play the player that you're up against instead of playing the game. If Geo's in that position, I think he might be expecting NJR to think, you know, it's Geo, he's old, you know, he's not that aggressive in his role. He's gonna stay in the corner passive, I'll pre-fire win the round. Geo, wide swing pre-fires right back, catch NJR by surprise, wins the gunfight, and he puts his gun to good use. SMG11, such a high fire rate, you want to be the one making those plays and seeking those engagements in those moments. It was a really great attempt for Pambazoo and DarkZero there to just kind of start things off in that 2 versus 3, finding the kill onto Rexon and Castle to get that 2v2. But, well, as long as Geo's there, can never count them out. He didn't do much in the attack in terms of killing, but he just won Soniqs a round in that 1v2 single-handedly. Oh yeah, there's frustration.
Yeah. Thought he had it. And that tells the full story. Jesse did confirm with me, by the way, that is what the desk said. Both teams ought to win their respective maps, but Night Haven Labs is a slight edge to Soniqs, as it is a map where SQ already beat DZ, so why not prevail in the rematch? No, rematches are far from certain. We find this time and time again that the team that won the first map the first time tends to actually lose the second time. This is especially true at international competition. And it's not even just map, it's the matchup. How many times in a best of 3 will, you know, Nip beat Fnatic in the group stages, and then in the knockouts, you know, Fnatic knocks out Nip. These are just two teams that are made up. It's not an actual matchup. In case somebody's like, well, actually, I didn't play each
That's
other.
never happening. Yeah.
It was an example.
It's a valid one.
If I had the memory to pull out a random matchup where the team won the rematch, I'd be stunned. Though I do think Nip and Fnatic were in the same group at the Paris Major, and I do actually think that they traded back and forth, so maybe I was right. Action beginning as we are talking. Citizen takes a gamble, down goes Rice, but DZ trades it back. DZ finds another pick. Yet again, no advantage gained for DarkZero initially, but things then start to go their way. They lost Rice, but 3 players from Soniqs are now in the ground as well, including your Doc, and including some of that plant denial. 2 nitro cells were originally available for Soniqs. They are not there any longer. It's Grixer and Gunner to just simply win a slugfest against DZ. DZ have tons of time, and they've still got plenty of utility. Grenades on the board, smokes on the board, Twitch drones on the board, regular drones on the board, and hard destruction. DZ have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to these gadgets, and they can use it to punish Soniqs and maybe pull off a defuse plan.
Dark's had a good read to begin things off. They're just holding ankles, expecting aggression from Soniqs, because being at 4 versus 2, it looks mighty great, but it's actually quite scary, because this is where defenders naturally will lash out and try and get those skills because they know they have to, and it's why DC are playing so disciplined and you can say slow in this round, despite having a big advantage. But Gunner, the timing does not favor him, and he dies because of it.
Well, DZ just sweep right through. 2 kills out of nowhere as the last 2 players from Soniqs die within nanoseconds of each other, and DZ will prevail, tying us yet again. Both of these teams love their overtime. Both of these teams apparently hate their fans because they want to give you cardiac arrests as often as possible. There is no ease in being a fan of Soniqs this stage as they consistently go to overtime, and there is no ease of ever being a DZ fan because they do not make anything simple. They make it as hard as humanly possible because adversity builds character, and they love their character. I actually don't know why they do it. They just constantly cannot escape a match quickly. When you have both of these teams fighting, 2 teams that love overtime, it's like the easily movable object versus like the easily stoppable object. It's just that they keep going into OT gladly every time.
Firm handshakes. Just saying, you know what, let's go there, all 3 maps. For the side of the rotation so far, I mean, the big difference right now in how defense has played out and kind of how the rounds have gone quicker since the side swap is essentially down to movement. When DarkZero played defense, they picked their spot and they planted roots. You know, they just sat there. Whereas Soniqs, they move around a lot more. And typically on a lot of maps, we'd say, okay, defense, they're being proactive, right? They're roaming, they're finding drones, they're rotating. But on border, it has all these really awkward long lines of sight, like from breaking door to security into 90 beepers, etc., where you can cut the map in half in a couple of different areas, and it makes it very awkward when defense moves too much because you'll just be found out on those angles. So the battle happens a whole like 30-40 seconds earlier than when DarkZero defended. And yeah, it comes down to like pretty even numbers in terms of trading, but attackers are typically going to have the advantage in opening duels on border because of those long lines of sight, because you have verticality and grenades, etc. So it's all about just getting into that stable position as an attacker, figuring out, okay, where do you want to attack? Because you can't attack everywhere all at once at the same time. You cannot pick, okay, horizontal or vertical take, okay, armor your archives, okay, and then go from there. DarkZero in the first 1 minute of this 9th round are still figuring out what approach they want to go for. And with these drones, they'll see that, well, Soniqs are spread relatively thin because they can defend this ventilation bomb site all from above. So top floor has to be taking control of the attackers, or else there's like no way to plant really on the bomb site below.
And they're really taking their time in relation to the other rounds that we've seen, so be slow, be steady. I like that you pointed out that DZ have been a bit of a slower team just by raw numbers in NA, and they've quickened their pace, which I honestly think comes with the familiarity that Rice has with the overall team structure too, right? You're onboarding a new player. You're gonna be slow as that player acclimates. As Rice gets more comfortable, I imagine we'll see DZ's pace continue to tick upwards. Now they've got the job done of opening up Armory Wall. Now they're pressuring triple panel in Office too. Soniqs have not been dissuaded from holding this spot though. They're still here. DZ gets a pick onto Geo. Is there an answer back from SQ, or is an advantage actually gained from DarkZero? Grixer almost falls too, so DZ holding firm. There goes a logic bomb and Canadian, next one under fire. DZ encroaching quickly on this top floor hold, and they'll find another kill on the Citizen.
The attacker's bomb diffuser has been dropped.
Well, position B, I mean, they fired it out, but again, DC, they have just more people coming time and time again. Rexon in the corner of Fountain could make a huge play here. He's gone undroned and unnoticed. Only 30 seconds left as well.
Rexon could make a big play. Finding the buck on Gavin, and he's the last one left. No diffuser for DarkZero, no sight control for DarkZero. Rexon battling from above.
To go.
Not a lot of time left.
Attackers have recovered.
EZ will need to course correct as NJR picks up the diffuser and hops to head downstairs.
5 seconds left.
Rexon is dropped as well. Through the wall, he tries something cheeky. Pambazoo shutting him down. And that's DZ winning their second round in a row. It was a heart-stopping moment, and Rexon absolutely could have turned that round on his head. Nearly did. But comes up just a tiny bit short. And DarkZero regains the lead. They're up by a single round. The Soniqs will respond by calling their timeout.
NGR doing NGR things, just doing the intro work, the trading work, the planting as well with Pamba to cover, and it looked dire there for a moment for DarkZero because, yeah, they got the opening kill. That was Pamba doing that work, but they couldn't really get in towards that Armory and Archives position in the map. And when they finally did, well, they got flanked by Rexon like we saw. Time got really, really low in this round, however. It was a very ballsy move from DarkZero to say, you know what, we know where Rexon is now. Let's just pick up the diffuser and run outside and plant it. NTR started planting with about 3.5, 4 seconds left. If one very small thing goes wrong there, that's Rexon just stealing it around for Soniqs in that 1v2 clutch. But that didn't happen. Bomb would have gone down. It didn't, because Pamba got the kill before it even could. With the tactical timeout, both teams can strategize with themselves and, of course, their support staff. We saw a smile from NGR, something that we haven't seen yet. It was frustration earlier, that was the emotion that he showed us, but winning that round must have felt good. He got 3 kills and almost a plan to pad his stats as well.
Bear in mind that DarkZero gets to speak during the timeout as well. For those that are unfamiliar with how timeouts work, both teams are given access to their coach, who is unable to communicate with the team outside of those timeouts and outside of between matchups. Once the game is live, whether it's in the prep phase / discovery phase, whether it's in the actual active portion of the round, whether it's an operator pick phase, your coach is unable to speak with you. For DarkZero, that means access to Mint and whatever support staff as well that helps him. Obviously, they can only speak with Mint. As for Soniqs, that means access to Goddess and her wealth of knowledge as well. Soniqs will remain on defense unless we go to overtime. Bomb site rotation for both of these teams has been bog standard. Whether it be a surprise pick of that Vents bomb site first for DZ, but either way, Vents and Workshop showing up, Armory upstairs showing up, and then that Bathroom Teller's bomb site also showing up too. I await a customs defense, but I don't think we're going to get it. Not a particularly strong site. So these teams are prepped for whatever is thrown their way. Bathroom Tellers will be on the board for our 10th round, where DZ could move to map point, which would be a huge boon for them as it's not their map choice. Or we could go to a 5-5, which would then necessitate my favorite round.
That it would. Canadian, he's been a flexible lad the last couple of years, and he plays it all. The Jackal entry, the Flores utility clear, the Dokubo DMPs. He also plays the Monty. And much like Geo, it's the more supportive style of the shield play, where we don't expect Troika to walk in, ADSing, pew-pew, drop shot, getting kills with the Monty, but more of like a escort the diffuser around, push defenders out of comfortable position, apply that pressure with the Monty presence, and of course just grant all that intel. You're basically a walking drone. We saw Troy, he's lost both of his drones already, likely using them aggressively in the droning phase, and then a flank drone now that probably died. So now he can just walk on in with the shield. He's completely freed up here. Nothing to spare. But one thing that Monty also kind of likes to play around is you can run the clock a little bit further down. because you can with almost guarantee get that diffuser into that plant position, when normally you gotta worry about people holding a line up side and shooting you before you can get there. So DC will play this round relatively slow. They are one gun down because of the monster, so they want to make sure that everybody gets in the building safely, take down that utility. There's only a minute to go. Is Soniqs still hold the majority of top floor? It's gonna be above that bomb set of tellers, but look at this. Monty is in, could maybe just plant.
No, I mean, unless you're Rexon trying to do something about it, but Canadian smites him away as Soniqs actually got on the board first, but it doesn't really matter. There's nothing gained from it. If anything, Canadian has the advantage, but he's got to be wary of those sight lines leading out from the site. Go for a plan. He just needs the supporting cast in place. And there we go. Geo goes down. Canadian gets the right call at this point. Shield on his back. Citizen compelled to action. NJR falls. Citizen pulls off the nitro cell, preventing the plant. That's bad coverage from DZ. They narrow the numbers. Down goes Grixer. Now another to follow. Citizen, the last one standing, but look at the HPs of Rice and Gavin. A single bullet. Citizen's positioned well to swing off and just fire away. Flashbang goes down, but DZ wins it. The pre-fire from the pistol. And they move to map point.
They were both 1 HP, and I'm not sure you saw it, but Citizen actually injured the player behind the ash inside of open air, behind the window, and they were almost stacked pixel to pixel. He was so close to getting both, essentially, with that spray down, and I can't believe it again. DC in these tense moments with no time left, with no health left in the health bars, they don't go for the plant and play cover. No, let's go for a double swing, expecting Citizen to make that same proactive play, because mind you, if Citizen had tucked the corner, hidden bathroom, or played for time, they would have swung into the timer hitting 0 and they would have lost that attacking round. It looked great. The Monty played perfect by Troy, right? Walked in with Diffuser, gets the first kill. It did take a long time for DarkZero to kind of stabilize, to try and plant that Diffuser down, and what a heroic C4 from Citizen, injuring Monty with only a second left in the plant timer, but it wasn't enough. And Soniqs, and like I mentioned earlier, they've gone OT in so many of their... What are they? They're blocking each other at the door. They've gone OT in so many of their maps this stage, where 1 or 2 rounds, they go from winning or losing in OT to winning in regulation. And right now, they're down 4-6. And if the 2 rounds that were oh so close had gone their way, then once again, they would be on match point. They would be close to winning it out. They're always so close this stage. So far, they seem almost cursed in these positions. It was Troy and Monty last round. It's gonna be Gavin on Blitz this round. DarkZero, they just want to show up here and give Soniqs the business.
Well, if you're Soniqs, obviously you've had some wind knocked out of your sails, only mustering a single victory on defense so far. Stage was set for the second half when they went 3 for 3 on the first half. In order to, you know, go to OT, you're gonna have to hit that same mark. DZ won 3 in a row and then sacrificed that final round to Soniqs. Now DZ have won 3 in a row, but they've got a bit of a buffer with 2 rounds left to play out. Soniqs will have to not just double their tally with this round victory, but then add to it. And yeah, shields, whether it be on the previous round or here, could potentially be a significant issue.
Always that fine balance when you play Blitz, because much unlike the Monty, you're much more vulnerable in these gunfights. You often see the Blitz have to crouch around the map to not get shot in the toes or the feet, the legs, whereas Monty just kind of skedaddles around with the extended shield. But once Blitz gets into the action, it's also very lethal. The gadget, the blinds, the hipfire, the melee, you name it, a killing machine. But it's also the secret weapon for DarkZero. You don't want to lose the Blitz early to just, you know, maybe get a single or kill on the roam clear. You kind of want the Blitz for that main push where you get a couple of kills or a ton of map control, but they might just reach up on this wall and Gavin make a play on site, because it might be a distraction play from DarkZero. I'm not entirely sure what this is. They're so spread apart.
Gavin is just waiting for the call. Shades of what we saw from Soniqs when it was Geo in the same position above. And speak of Geo, he's the first death. Panbazoo on entry, who's been so good. A 2.1 rating on entry, and it just continues to get better. There's the smokes for concealment. Gavin inside diffuser on the knife's edge. Panbazoo picking up 3 before he's put in the grave. Soniqs will now need to work against the timer as a nitro cell goes out by Gunner. Has not been pulled off just yet. Haunting in the chat as Panbazoo attempts to take up residency in their heads. SQ burning through half of that diffuser timer, but look at this. Gunner's on, he falls off. Bros don't fake from above. Rexon feeding into it. Gunner is down, and now Rexon to save his team's map, dropping and edging ever closer to the bomb site. 2 players from DZ up, 2 seconds left. The point of no return has appeared. The map going in favor of DarkZero. They steal it away from SQ.
What a beautiful execute. The armor breach opening kill, and then Blitz out of nowhere just goes to the plant in